Tucked away in the back streets of Newtown is an exciting independent brewery, Young Henry's, started by Richard Adamson, Oscar McMahon and Dan Hampton. Richard and Oscar decided they wanted to open a brewery, and so they did, and opened Young Henry's in 2012. Dan, who used to work for Little Creatures, came and joined them sometime later, and the rest, as they say, is history. Young Henry's is now employs about 80 staff, and last year produced about 6 million bottles of beer, litres of beer. Litres of beer. So, gentlemen, many people have a dream to open a brewery, but you went ahead and did it. What were some of the challenges, and what was your original vision for Young Henry's?
Oh, we're a long way from the original vision. I think that was a restaurant bar making some beer out the back, and that got crawled by council, several councils in fact, and we ended up with a production brewery that we had to make work. So here we are 7.5 years later.
Still unable to serve food.
Yeah. One way of looking at it, yes.
Yeah.
How do you get around that to serve food?
Well, food trucks. The beautiful thing about, I guess, the hospitality scene in Sydney, there were a few different things that were all sort of flourishing at the same time. Small bars and restaurants, microbreweries and food trucks, and all of those things sort of work well and complement each other quite well, as in food trucks would quite often pull up to the different microbreweries to sell their wares, and the smaller casual dining and small bar scene really supported smaller independent producers.
What do you think the future is for independent small breweries?
Jeez, good question. There was about 100 I think when Young Henry's opened, there was about 120 craft brewers in Australia. There's about 620 now, and I mean, we're following on from the American market, and that's done a similar level of growth, and then the per capita, how many people servicing, or how many microbreweries servicing people, a similar amount. It's not endless, really, on the way that it's currently structured. It's not endless, but I think everyone's working on how their business model can fit within a much fuller market. And one big thing that's come from that is a lot more emphasis on localization. So a lot more breweries are simply servicing either just from a brew pub, and so it's just servicing people that are coming through their doors, or they're producing for retail and on-prem, but focusing on just that local area. So we're a national business. We probably snuck through the door before it closed, because now when you speak to a lot of national businesses such as Woolworths and Coles and indie banner groups that are national and pub groups that are national, they're not really looking to bring many little beer companies national anymore. So it's just a change. It's a big change.
So what happened to Little Creatures isn't likely to happen to you?
I don't think that scale and that there wasn't many for the big guys to pick from, so they picked Little Creatures. Phenomenal business, great company to work for, taught me everything I knew about coming into this business, and the way we based our sales team, which we built together, was similar to that. But what happened then, it's still happening now, but it's not on that scale. That was massive. That was a big thing, and it was one of the first big ones in Australia, kind of. And it's happened a few times since, but it's not that's going to happen all the time.
I think also with another thing that we've seen recently is the inclusion of the Independent Brewers Association and the seal, the IBA seal, which basically only independent brewers can actually have on their packaging. And you're starting to see more and more brewers putting that on as a sort of as a marker, as a piece of pride. Independence is something to be cherished and to be celebrated, and independent beer in volume and value continues to grow even when, you know, the gross volume of beer in Australia is declining. So
people drinking beer care about who makes it too. So they do care about ownership. We've seen that.
Yeah.
So as you say, even though there is a decline in beer consumption, you still see your own growth, and you see growth in the independent market.
absolutely, and a lot of our mates who run breweries, they're all still growing. It's a really good time to be an independent beer company.
People, it's the phrase less but better. So I think there's two things: less but better. People are drinking, instead of getting a 30 can case as cheap as you can get, they're buying 6-packs or similar of better stuff, and they just won't drink as much. But also the independents. People are starting to seek out that as well, and there might be some price variances that's come in a little bit as well. But yeah, people are seeking out that, as Rich said, the ownership part of it has become important.
It's a funny thing that you now have an interesting marketplace where 600 or so independent brewers are in direct competition with two huge multinational companies. They are our competition. So there is a sort of, a little bit of an underdog sort of, us versus them sort of mentality, which I think actually makes the craft beer scene sort of fun, and there is a camaraderie amongst other business owners. We are a tasting bar. We make beer, cider and gin on premise, and that's the cornerstone of our business. We want people to come in and to be able to sample our different products. This is our touch point for our brand. This is our Young Henry's family living room. Not being able to have a kitchen in here and serving food has never really been an issue to us, to be honest. We have got really great relationships with lots of people, local businesses and food trucks that completely fulfill that need to our customers. So it's we're pretty happy with how it is.
And I believe you're doing some collaborations with people like Harry's Cafe de Wheels.
Yeah.
Is that working?
That's probably one of the more simple collaborations we've done. Actually, is putting the motorcycle oil in a pie. We've done some crazier ones, I'd say, than that in the past. So yeah, they're always fun.
But I think the collaboration view, I remember when I met these two 6.5 years ago, collaboration was a big part from the outset of Young Henry's, and I'd probably heard about collaborations, bands would collaborate with each other, and then there was brewers were collaborating with each other, but we kind of saw an opportunity to collaborate with like-minded people but from a different industry, because rather than craft brewers collaborating with each other and you're basically just talking to the same people, we thought if we can expand who we're talking to, and then hopefully you take their fans and they take your fans and you're cross-pollinating that way, and we started doing with bands was a big one. Most people are either been in a band or wanted to be in a band in this business, so we just found a natural inclination to team up with different bands, mainly local sort of smaller bands to start with, but then we had Foo Fighters come knocking because they'd heard about what we did and wanted to brew with an Australian brewer, and so the big ones have come from the little ones, but it's always just been they've always been because we wanted to just team up and throw ideas around together and see what came out.
We thought the Foo Fighters phone call was a prank call at first, to be honest.
Sometimes you wonder.
Yeah, we did.
Obviously, you've been very successful, but is there anything you would do differently if you could?
We've made every single mistake. Every single mistake that a beer company could make, we have made.
I think the big one I think was we had a really good idea in concept, and it was we watched what this here meant to the locals, and we just thought, you know what, imagine if we do this and replicate this, make it relevant to Brisbane, WA, Adelaide, in theory that's a really good idea. We did the WA one, and it just didn't work, and there was a day there where we either had to make a very hard decision and just shut the doors, or and pull away from that WA brewery, or the whole business went. And so we've come really close, and obviously not everyone in the whole business is aware of how close and stressful that was, but again we've made a lot of really good decisions, because I think we've got a really good group of people who think slightly differently but have all got a common goal. So if you all sit in a room and we make sure we communicate really well with each other, then we're getting a lot better at intercepting that idea and sense checking it.
And also, if we all, as in a collective, not just us, but also the rest of our crew, if we make a decision that we think something is right for the business, if that doesn't work out, it doesn't feel as bad because we all believed in it. It's much easier to sort of dust yourself off after a bit of a mistake if you're all complicit in making it. And also, usually, by trusting your gut, you are actually making the right decisions more often than not. And that's how we find ourselves here. We have a really great feedback loop from all of our crew who tell us when they've got a good idea or when they think our good ideas are shit ideas.
Well, obviously you've got a great product because you've been very successful, and that's great. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time today. And I have to say, as a dog lover, I love the fact you allow dogs in.
Yeah, right.
Can they get a beer as well?
That's your
There's
call.
always bottles of water around, so that'd be your best.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Cheers, Jeremy.
Cheers, man.